Welcome to part 11 of the series where I am dedicating a single video to every question in the mid-year freakout tag. Today's question is, who is your favorite new author? And it could be an author that's new to you or a debut author. So if you want to answer these questions along in the comments, you're welcome to do so. I am taking this question and deciding, so there's been 3 authors. I read a lot of authors that are new to me, and there's 3 authors that I now want to read their back catalog. I would say I want to read everything they've ever written, but maybe as soon as I start their back catalog, we'll see how it goes. So the first one on this list is Percival Everett. So I read James this year, and I loved James. James was like a great discussion book too. I felt like there were so many things to talk about that happened in this book. And also, like, I'm going to be honest, like reading this, I'm like, I am now interested in other things Percival Everett has written. And then I did see a blurb that Percival Everett had on another book. And like, I know the conversations around like author book blurbs and all of that, but Percival Everett had this blurb saying something to the effect of, this book, I like reading books that are smarter than me. And I was like, Percival Everett seems like a fairly smart guy. Now, to be fair, maybe I'm getting some of that from like the fact that James, in the book James, also seems like a very smart guy. But now I want to read more that Percival Everett has written. I think the top 2 contenders on my list are Erasure and The Trees. I also am kind of interested in like So Much Blue, or what was the other one? There's another, Assumption, I think is the other crime novel. He seems like he writes across a spectrum of genres. Maybe they're all a little bit more literary, but he definitely has some like crime fiction in here, as well as some, I guess, like mainstream books or books that might be considered more literary. So yeah, I don't know. So Erasure sounds really interesting. So Erasure is about this author who is writing from his own personal experience as a Black American, and he's not seeing much success. But then this other author who visited some relatives in Harlem for a few days and then wrote about her experience receives tremendous success, gets lauded for having authentic Black experience in the US. And our main character is very upset by this because he's like, this is not the authentic experience. This is someone, you know, putting on a show, I guess, or hasn't actually like lived here. They're just taking like the little bit that they knew from their visit. And he decides to like write a parody of that under a pseudonym, and then gets a lot of success for his book that he's just like parodying the way like identity and are treated, and the way like certain things are considered authentic because they are, I guess, more palatable or whatever. It sounds like an interesting story. Also, apparently, I think the entire book that he writes, that's the parody, is also like part of this book. So I think it goes like back and forth between like his writings and then like his story. It sounds like a unique story. I am interested in it. I'm also interested in The Trees, which is like a crime story. And I'm not really big on crime stories or mysteries or whatever, but I would be willing, you know, to give them a go, because like there are sometimes like maybe it's not so much about the crime or the mystery. It depends, like, I guess, what the focus of the story is. And this one, it sounds like it is going to be more of a focus on how things are investigated, on police brutality, on race relations, and that sounds kind of interesting to me. Okay, the next author I have on this list, I read one of their books and I want to read everything else they've ever written. That is Han Kang. So I read We Do Not Part, which that book has stayed with me since I read it. And I want to read everything Han Kang has written. Also, well, I guess everything that's translated to English, because at this point, I'm not planning on learning Korean. I guess maybe in the future, if I read all of these books and then go, oh my gosh, I have to learn Korean so I can read everything she's ever written. But also a lot more are being translated into English since Han Kang did win the Nobel Prize in Literature. So she has 3 other English books that are translated into English. So she has The Vegetarian, she has Human Acts, and she has The White Book. The books I know the most about are The Vegetarian and Human Acts, and I think I'm probably going to read them, I guess, in reverse order. I think it's to what they were translated into English, because I'm probably going to read Human Acts next, since this one is also like about a war tragedy, and it's mentioned in We Do Not Part that like our main character is writing about a massacre, and it's something that like is on her mind all of the time, and she's having, you know, navigating all of that, like writing about these experiences. And I believe Human Acts is maybe a closer, more up close to the tragedy, I think. I definitely want to read that one, and then The Vegetarian. And then I don't know that much about The White Book. That's probably the one I know the least about. So it's probably going to be the last one I read, but I definitely want to read everything by this author. And I guess in a little bit more fun vein, I also want to read everything by Foz Meadows. Foz Meadows is the author of A Strange and Stubborn Endurance, which is a fantasy romance, romantasy something-ish book that I read this year and really liked. I did read the sequel and was disappointed in the sequel, but I still like A Strange and Stubborn Endurance enough to try Foz Meadows' other works. And they have written another duology, another fantasy duology, and as far as I know, there's less romance in it. The first one is An Accident of Stars, and I think it's like a portal fantasy, and it's supposed to be like a high magic world, and I'm intrigued. I want to give this a try. And I do have the book out from the library right now because I got it out going, I'm going to read this soon. And I honestly don't think I have that much time to read it right now. So it's probably going to go back to the library and then I'll check it out again when I have time. But I am planning on, I guess, making reading challenges for myself more later this year. And maybe some of the challenges will be like reading backlist authors from back catalogs of authors that I've read and enjoyed. So those are all the books, not all of the books, those are my favorite new authors that I've read so far this year. Chat with me about your favorites in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.